But here's the phrase we always say, I know my car. You know, people be like, you know, all the lights are on the gauge. I mean, all of them. Just every light that could possibly be on. Oil change, brake pads, everything. And we're like, I know my car. And we will ride on that baby. The other day we had an ice cream social, and there was a flat tire outside, or so we thought. And we went outside to fix the tire. We were excited. We were like, oh, man, you know. So one of the brothers said, it's my car. We went outside. We said, we got your back, bro. That's what church for. We're going to help you change this tire. We walked out, and all the brothers looked at the tire and was like, we can ride on that for the next 3 weeks. Like that. You can make it to 757 and back on that tire right there. That tire is good. Tire is good. But because we understand our car, we don't, you know, we don't rush. We don't overreact to some of those things. And I think sometimes, though, we've all been in a moment where we know we should have did something, we should have maintained something, we should have fixed something, and then the car broke down. The tire finally gave out. How many of us can be honest, like you had gas money, but you tried to make it and you broke down before? Can I get a few witnesses in the building? Only few of us? Oh, my Lord. Okay, thank you so much. God, maybe it's just a few. You know, you had that thing that you should have fixed. You should have got in order. And you could have traveled further to your destination, but you didn't maintenance it when you had the chance. Many times I think stewardship is the same challenge in all of our lives. Is whenever we come to church, we come for these spiritual concepts, and we kind of divorce spirituality and practicality. We think that the gospel is only about what God is going to do in the supernatural and miracles, but I came to let you know today that there is some practicality to the gospel, and that if we learn to practice some of these principles early, that we can go further and deeper into the destiny that God has for us. For some of us, the reason we're not further along has nothing to do with the fact that God doesn't love us. The devil is not busy. He's not working in our finances. He ain't jumped into your bank account. It's just that we have not practiced good stewardship. And we've been saying every day in this series that the difference between salvation and sanctification, that salvation happens instantly, but sanctification is a process. It is a changing of mentality, is a changing of the heart. And one of the things I wanted to break down for just a moment is this word salvation. It comes from a Greek word called sozo, and 110 times this word is used in the Bible. It's a verb, and it's important that you understand this verb because 11 times it means wholeness. Everybody say wholeness. And it is a verb, which means it is a constant process. So again, 11 times in the Bible, the word salvation is translated as wholeness, meaning that I'm getting saved, but there's a constant process of me becoming whole. There's some habits that I brought into my salvation. There's some ideologies I brought into my salvation. There's some principles that I brought into my salvation that are not healthy, that are keeping me fragmented, that are keeping me broken, that are keeping me missing pieces. And so part of my salvific process is God trying to fix and make those things whole. And it's so important because we've been saying this quote every time we preach this series, is that for many of us, the fulfillment of our destiny is determined by our daily decisions. Everybody say daily decisions. One of the difficult things about preaching a sermon series like this is that it causes us to reflect on accountability, that we play a part in what God is doing, that we play a part and getting to what God has for us. And it's so important. And I want to go to this next slide real quick. Go ahead, Justin, because this is so imperative for you to catch in your spirit. We said this earlier in the series, that we cannot be so focused on God's provision that we lose value of God's presence. And this is why many of us, the enemy knows that if I can just keep them in bad stewardship principles, if I can keep them desperate for God to always do a miracle, if I can just keep them always praying for what they need and what they want and the bill that they need paid and the loan that they need paid off, if that is their prayer request from now to the time that they die, they will never learn that my entree is my presence, not my provision, that's just something on the side, that you don't love me because of what I do, you love me for who I am. But we can't get there if we don't practice good stewardship. And when we start to look at these principles, this last thing is so important. Go ahead, Justin, because I want you to catch this as we frame the conversation today, that many of us are so busy praying for miracles that we'll never see the power of disciplines. We spent our lives praying for God to do miracles. Miracles are meant for emergencies. If you pray every week for a miracle, that means something in your life is undisciplined. If you need a bill paid every month, that means somewhere in your life you lacked discipline. But it's normal, right? Because we're used to testimony service. Anybody have prayer and praise at their church growing up? Honor to God for the head of my life. I want to give an honor to God to my pastor, Bishop Thurgood, Master Jr. God is good. Last week I ain't have enough to pay my light bill, and the Lord did it every time he does it. If he got to do it every time, that is an indication that discipline might fix that thing. And so it's so essential that we start to understand these principles. And one of the things I thought I could do, I could come up here and preach a whole sermon to you as I've done the last 4 weeks about discipline and about these practices. But sometimes even as preachers, we have to know that there's somebody more qualified to pour into you. Amen, somebody. And so today we have some of those people here, but I want to share just a couple quick scriptures. Go with me real quick, Justin, to Proverbs 30. I want to share these couple quick scriptures because they're going to show us the value of why we're here today. And then I'm going to call up our panelists. I want to show Proverbs 30 real quick. And it's verse 24 and 25. There are 4 things in this earth that are unusually small, or small but unusually wise. I love this. Ants, they aren't strong, but they store up food all summer. And this is essential. I was in Nassau a few years ago, and I was riding in the car with this young lady I was there to sing who was 9 years old. And she began to share with me her favorite part of the Bible at 9. And she said, I love the fact that the ants save up for the winter. I said, I don't understand. She said, well, they teach us in school here that if we learn to save in the right seasons, that when drought hits, we'll be okay. And for so many of us, the reason we're frustrated is because we didn't recognize how to store up in the right seasons. That we spent all we had. I'm not preaching to you. I'm preaching to us today. I promise you that. Here it is. I want to read one more to you. Let's go to 13:22, Proverbs 13:22. I just want to show you that the Bible is so practical, that the gospel is so practical, and that it wants to impact your entire life, not just your church life. Proverbs 13:22. Good people leave an inheritance. Come on, somebody say, somebody, inheritance. I need an inheritance. I need that to just hit my bank account tomorrow. Good people leave an inheritance to their grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth passes to the godly. It's so important that we understand that when you are thinking about stewardship, when you are thinking about being spiritual, you should not divorce yourself from the practical. That a part of your godliness should be using wisdom in how you save and how you create wealth for the next generation in your life. That I want to be the generation that says my daughter don't got to worry about college education. I want to be the generation that says we know how to prepare for tragedy and unexpected allowance. I know we don't like to talk about that stuff, but that is also Bible too. Can I get an amen, somebody? Let's read one more, and then we're going to bring our panels up. I thought about this one. I want to read this one because this one's going to be good for us, particularly us millennials. Proverbs 22. Look at somebody, say, are you a millennial? If they not, say it's going to be good for you too. Proverbs 22, 26 and 27. Don't agree to guarantee another person's debt. Ooh, Jesus. Even if, look at your neighbor. We're going to put this in the text. Say, even if they a boo. Y'all know how y'all do. You be like, but we together. We going to be together forever. I don't got no ring yet, but I'm going to help him pay this bill. No, the devil is a liar. He need to be able to pay the bill first before he marry you. All right. Because if you can't pay it, even your bed will be snatched from under you. It's important. Now, I'm not saying, hear my heart today, I'm not saying that we should not be generous. We talked about that over the last 2 weeks. I'm not saying that we should not be giving. But it is imperative that we don't become so consumed trying to be people's savior that we forget to be savers. Can I get a witness, somebody? And so we want to talk today about the practicality of how we can be spiritual but also practice good stewardship, because I believe that a healthy church is not just one that shouts on Sunday, but it's one that knows how to live Monday through Saturday. So here it is. We're going to bring up 4 people who are way smarter than me. I'm so excited to have them with us today. They're going to be coming to share with us. The first person I'm going to bring up, his name is Mr. Jarrell Saunders. Can y'all make some noise for him today? Yes, Lord. Jarrell is a certified CPA. He is actually one of Ashley's bosses at Altria Corp. He currently serves. I don't even know why I'm trying to think of the title he serves in, but he know what he's talking about. He also is certified as a financial peace. For those who have never heard about Financial Peace University, he's going to be helping us by facilitating an 8-week course here for those who are trying to get out of debt and understand how to live debt free. So he's certified in that. So he's here to share with us today. Make some noise for him. All right. We also want to thank God today for Miss Sierra Wilson. Come on up here, Sierra. Make some noise for her. She's one of our own. Sierra has a company called Budget 101, Budget to Wealth, 101. She has her own personal company where she actually serves as a budget advisor, and she also works in financial advising as well. So we're so excited to have her. She also has a blog and a website, so I'm going to let them all say a little bit about that before they leave today. But make some noise for Sierra today if you would. Right, we also have today with us Mr. Stephen Pitts. Make some noise for Mr. Steve Pitts. Mr. Pitts works for Xerox Corporation. What's your job title? I always mess this up. Director of Sales. But he's made a lot of investments. He's bought a lot of houses and a lot of cars. But he honestly is a great man. He's done great things for Ashley and I, spreading wisdom into our lives, and he's qualified here to share with you. And then finally, we want to bring up the most beautiful woman in the room, no offense to anybody. But want to bring up Miss Ashley Gordon. Make some noise. And she's my wife, so that's why she's here. No, she also works in the financial field. She got her degree in accounting, and she also works at Altria as an auditor now in the private sector. I said that right? I'd be messing up. Okay, whatever works. So make some noise for our panelists today. They're going to be sharing with us. Man, you guys can have a seat. Now, what's going to happen is we want to give you guys two options, way to do this today. We want you to ask questions. We want you to feel comfortable asking questions. So here it is. There's some instructions on the screen. If you would like to text in a question anonymously, it can be about anything. It can be about debt reduction. It can be about good stewardship practices, how to buy a house, how to pay off a car, should you buy something? Amen, somebody. It could be about anything that you need, personal. You can text that question anonymously to the number on the screen. Just text 22333 with the message Hardy Car 967. Again, that's Hardy Car 967, and it will come up to me on my iPad. It will come up to me on the iPad. Or if you just say, hey, I don't mind asking my question aloud, you can just raise your hand, and these two individuals, Cecily and will bring the microphone to you, and they would love to help you get your question answered today. Now, I need y'all to help me make our guests feel welcome by giving them a whole lot of questions. I don't care if you already know the answer. Ask the question for somebody else. Amen, somebody. So we want to go ahead and get started. And one of the questions that we already had from the beginning is, how do you save for a car? But actually, before I get to that question, I just want to start off by asking each of you, when you think about stewardship, what is one thing that you think is an important value? And I'm going to ask our panelists today to make their answers concise and to the point so that we can keep the show moving. But if you have to think about stewardship, what's one thing that you would say, one word, one sentence, one phrase that comes to mind for you? We're starting with you, beautiful.
When I think about stewardship, I guess the first thing that would come to my mind is sacrifice.
When I think about stewardship, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is planning. Planning. Yeah, I've seen so many examples over the last few years of people who are older than me, a little more elderly, that didn't plan appropriately, and as a result of that, that's major.
All right, that's one of y'all mics. We'll figure out who it is. Keep going. Hold on real quick. Say all that again, but just use this mic.
Okay, so when when I think about stewardship, I think about discipline, because discipline is all about doing now, which you'll be grateful for doing it. You'll be grateful that you did in the future. And I always like to recite Hebrews 12:11. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful, but in the future you'll reap a peaceful harvest of right living by those that are trained in that way. So that is what keeps me going. So yeah.
For me, stewardship, when I think about the word stewardship, I think about management. And that's what I am. I'm a manager of the resources that God's given us. I'm not the owner. It's not mine. It's not my money. It's not my car. It's not my house. It's God. And I just got to think about it every day, how I'm using this to bring glory to God. So that's what I think about. I'm a manager, not the owner. I can't take it with me. It's going to be here for someone else to use it and for the next generation. So that's what he was talking about earlier about leaving a legacy. So that's what I think about management.
See that? Yeah, y'all keep that one. I'll use this one. All right. So, first question we had that came in is, how do I save for a car? How do I save for a car? Any of you guys can tackle that one. How do I save for a car?
I'll start. Well, with anything, you need a detailed spending plan. So I would say saving for a car, I would say if you're still in, and this is the tricky part, if you're still in debt, I would say you would focus on paying off debt. But let's just focus on the car right now. Let's just assume you're out of debt. So saving for a car, I would say you would just have to look at your spending plan, cut spending out of your spending plan to make the money available to save for a car. And when you're saving for a car, you want to be able to pay cash for the car and not have to go get a loan for the car. So you may want something, a nice Honda Accord or a Beamer or something, but you're going to have to make some sacrifice now. You may have to just go get that $1,000 beater, for this season in your life, and just drive that around while you're saving your money for a future better car. Many of you do not know, but the average car payment in America is about $500, and that's over 84 months. And just think about it, if you didn't have that car payment and the average working life is 40 years, if you invested that $500, that would be about $5.5 million by the time you retire. So just think about the value of that car payment. So I would say always save your money to pay cash for a car.
Good. It was like he killed it. Okay. All right. Another question we have is, when is it a good time to get a credit card? When is it a good time to get a credit card? I just want to make sure I mention, guys, our panelists might disagree at some point. So
yeah. I think when you're in college, the first couple years in college, I just went through this with my kids to establish some kind of credit, because you're going to need credit as you go throughout your life. So my kids have established credit cards right around their sophomore year of college, just to make sure they have some kind of discipline around finances. I do monitor that now to make sure that they're not going overboard, but I think that's the appropriate time to get some good credit established.
I think the first question you asked is, why do you want a credit card? I think it's important to build credit. I agree. But I think the question would be, why do you want a credit card? And I think another thing to think about, if you're going to get a credit card, the purpose of it would be to establish credit. And so you don't get a credit card if you don't have the money to pay it off, on a monthly basis. So I think that's where a lot of us get into trouble, is we have this money and it's not ours, and then at the end of the month we don't have the money to pay it off. And so it's important that every month, if you decide you want to get a credit card, that you pay it off in full. If you that will be the goal, if that is your choice, to that way of building credit.
And I always like to tell people is, if you're going to get a credit card and you've never had one before, make sure it works for you. So start small. Like Ashley was saying, don't go get a credit card if you're going to be at the mall every Friday swiping, or like Vernon said, the new Jordans come out, you're swiping for Jordans. You know what I mean? Make it work for you. So make sure if you're going to get a credit card, get something with cash rewards, so that they're going to pay you back. You know what I mean? So like on gas purchases or grocery purchases, I always like to use myself for an example. And for me, I have one credit card that I use. I have Bank of America Cash Rewards, and I use that every week to get my groceries and my gas on, and I get cash rewards back on that. And I also have an Amex, and I pay certain bills on that, but I get points that I can later use. So I pay that off every single month because that's when I pay my cell phone bill on it. I know I'm going to pay that every single month, but I'm getting points so that when I fly, I can use that towards flights and hotels and things of that sort. So make it work for you. Do your research.
Got a great follow-up question to that somebody sent in.
Vernon, I'm sorry.
Oh, you okay, Terrell?
This is one point where you had mentioned there might be a little disagreement
That's
on
all
the
right.
panel.
That's all right.
And I just have to
That's all
have to speak a little bit on this topic. And I'm not saying this because I'm innocent and I'm not guilty of this, because I do have a credit card. But I would say that when you, like Ashley said, you got to think about the reason why you need a credit card. And to be honest, I don't think there's a really legitimate reason to have a credit card. In fact, me and my family, we're working to basically eliminate our credit cards, because when you think about the things that you can get from a credit card, and I know we talk about credit score, but before credit cards existed, people would buy homes, people could buy cars, people could rent apartments. So there are still people that do that where you don't need a credit score to do that. So I would argue that, hey, you don't need a credit card. Save up your cash and, do it cash only. And don't fall in that trap, because the one thing that you will find out about finances, and, Pastor Vernon mentioned Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace, you will find out that finances is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. I mean, we all know what we got to do to lose weight, right? We got to go to the gym. We got to eat better. We just got to do those things. But the thing is, it's the behavior. Are we willing to do that? And I think that's the key with finances. We know what we need to do. We need to be disciplined. And I don't think there's a real reason why we need to have debt. So that's and when you read the Bible, it doesn't say debt is a sin, but you can't find anything that there's a good thing said about debt in the Bible. And that's how I leave it.
Well, good follow-up question to that.
Oh.
For those who believe in credit. No, how do you build your credit then when you can't get approved for a credit card because of debt already? Question is, how do you build your credit when you can't get approved for a credit card because of debt? And so, of course, Darrell's answer, which is a great answer, will be don't worry about it. But how would you do that if you were to go about it?
I'll try.
He said, I'll try.
Yeah. Well, this is a good question, because when I talked about credit, and if you have a credit score, there's two ways you can improve it. You can kind of, pay your bills on time, not closing any credit cards, and that will slowly improve your credit. The other thing you could do is start closing your credit cards, and that will actually erase your credit score. So there's two areas you want to be. You either want to have a really good credit score, or you want to have no credit score. You don't want to be in that middle where you have a bad credit score, because you can't do anything with that. If you have a good credit score, you can do stuff, purchase a house, get an apartment, purchase a car. If you have no credit score completely, you can actually still purchase a house, get an apartment. But what they will need to see is that discipline. They need to see a history of you paying utilities on time, a history of you making a stable income, a history of you just when you're trying to get on time, so that you can show them that, hey, showing assets, showing savings in the bank. They will underwrite you when you're trying to get a mortgage. They will give you an apartment if they're smart. People know that, if you're a millionaire, even though you don't have a credit score, that you are financially fit to rent from people or buy houses. And that's the same true with, anyone at any level. If you can show that consistent discipline that you have the ability to pay. So that's what I would say about how to improve it.
One of the things I've noticed about talking to several different individuals is that they don't know what their credit score is. Find out. Get the facts. So therefore, when you go to get an apartment, there's no surprises. You should know what your credit score is, how much debt you have before you go in there. I think the facts help those decisions in the long run. So just get the facts so you know what's going on.
Man, anybody got the facts? Me and Ashley ain't have all the facts. I ain't have all the facts. I got me. Amen. I'm so happy she stayed with me. All right. Moving along. How do you get out of student loan debt quicker? Come on, I might shout if one of y'all get a right answer on this.
I got you.
Where the organist at?
That's actually to be transparent, that's something that Pastor Vernon and I are working on now. And so we actually do follow the Dave Ramsey principle, and we'll learn more about that if you come to the Financial Peace University class in the fall. But what he really promotes is snowballing your debt. And so what we've tried to do is pay off our debts, the smallest one, and then as time, we can use that money and put it towards additional loans that we had. So we started off by paying off our cars, and so now our cars are paid off, and that payment that we had on the car, we now use that to go towards our student loans as well. So now you're continuously building the amount that you're paying on your student loans. You're building it because you're taking all your other debts that you had, and so what our payment we were paying a year ago, now we've tripled that amount to pay off our student loans. So the goal, even for us, is for my student loans to be paid off by this year. And before we started this debt snowballing effect, I was looking at paying off my student loans in my 30s. And so the goal would be to start with your smallest debt, pay that off, and continue to use the money to continue to pay off. Don't just pay your minimum payment either. That's how these loan companies get us, because they tell us this is the amount you're supposed to pay, and we pay it, and it takes us 25 years to pay it off. Instead of using that additional money that you get, your tax refund, you know, any additional money that you're using, you need to be using that to get rid of that student loan. So it's a discipline thing, because sometimes when we have extra money, we want to treat ourselves. But in the long run, if you use that money towards your debt, you are paying yourselves off, and you're helping your kids as well.
Ain't nobody want to clap on that because they like, nah. She said tax refund. You're like, nah, I need that.
Just to piggyback off of what Ashley said, I definitely think it definitely takes discipline, as well as, like she said, a lot of sacrifice. You can't ask the question, well, what will it take for me to pay off my student loans if you're not willing to sacrifice? So if you want to pay off your student loans, whether it be student loans, a car, whatever, or your house, like whatever it may be, you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice. That means some trips. Like if your friends are going to, LA this summer, you might not be able to go. Like, or if, you want to go, you're used to going shopping, you may have to cut back on your shopping budget, you know what I mean? Or your Christmas budget, or like Ashley said, your tax refund, you may have to contribute that all to your student loans or your house or the car, whatever it is that you're trying to pay off. So you always have to keep that in mind, like that you're going to have to sacrifice. But one thing that Dave Ramsey always says, it's only for a season. It's not forever. Like it may only be for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or maybe even 5 years. But then you'll have the rest of your life to travel and do the things that you want to do because you're debt free and you don't have that burden on you.
Awesome.
I'll say a little bit, not much on this one, but the one thing I would say is I know this church is very young, so some of you may be still in college right now, and I would say the one way that you can pay off your student loans quicker is not take out any more student loans, right? You're at a point in time where you have some loans. Don't go to your junior year and take out your third year and take out another loan in your fourth year. Start working now. Start saving now to cash flow the rest of your student loans right now. So don't make it any worse than what it is today. So I would just say focus on cash flowing the rest of your student loans. And the one thing that research shows, it says that people who work in college actually performs better in school. So it gives you more discipline when you're able to juggle multiple tasks.
Just one more thing for the college students. I know a lot of us get that refund. We used to get that refund check.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So if you're getting a refund check, that means you don't need that money. That money was for school, and now school is paid off. So that refund check that you have, you can actually tell them, hey, I don't need this money, because all it's doing, you're going to pay interest on that. So if you can work like Jarrell said, give that money back. I've sat with college students at VCU. We've looked at all their student loans, and I've said, go back into the office and say, please reduce this amount so that you're not taking on additional debt for no reason. I did well, but if I could go back, I would not do that.
Awesome. Another question. Aside from tithes, what percentage of our check should go towards saving? Aside from tithes, 10%, what percentage of our check should go towards savings?
I think that's a matter of, what you want to project in the future. I mean, I think a lot about that now in retirement, and what does retirement look like, and how do I want to live? So we contribute, almost another 20% on top of the tithe that we give in 401ks, in different IRAs, to make sure that our retirement is set up properly. So that may be a little aggressive up front, but I would just say start somewhere. If you're in a job that has a 401k, take advantage of that, because they're matching the money that they give you. And so often we wait too late. We're 45, 50 years old and trying to think about retirement. But when you start young, like he was saying, that money does accumulate over the years, and you can retire a millionaire if you plan correctly.
I would say sit down. I always tell people, first just create a budget and write down all of your expenses, and then subtract your expenses from your income, and then see what you have left over, and then determine what you want to do in the future. What are your goals? Is that to buy a home? Is that to buy a car? Or do you want to create a vacation fund? Whatever it may be, and then determine, like, what amount do you want to create a short-term goal. So what amount do you want to have saved by the end of the year? Say you want to have $1,000 saved in a savings account by the end of the year. What amount do you need to contribute every single month to get to that goal? It makes it so simple. And then at the end of the year, reevaluate your savings goals. You know what I mean? One tip that I always give my clients is to have a savings account in a different banking institution than your debit card is in, okay? So if you, I use myself all the time as an example. I have my debit card with Bank of America. My savings are all with Virginia Credit Union. One, because there's not a lot of them, and I can't just go and be like, oh, there goes Virginia Credit Union, and let me go in and get some money out. And then two, I'm not out with my friends at dinner or at the mall or wherever, and I'm not transferring money from my savings over to my debit card and swiping, because then I'm not exercising discipline, and I'm not sacrificing anything, and then there goes my savings goals out the window. So it helps you stay on track. And then another savings tip is to get your employers, if you're already getting direct deposit, a lot of times they will automate your savings to different bank accounts. So if you have a bank account with, like for me, with Virginia Credit Union, they automatically put what I tell them into my Virginia Credit Union accounts each pay period. So the work is already done for me. You know what I'm saying? So it just sits there and works for me. So I think you said creating a plan and being organized to automate your savings will definitely help you stay on track and keep you disciplined and consistent in managing your finances.
Automate your tithes too. I already talked about that.
Pastor, we got a question in the audience. So you just spoke about savings, retirement. So I was working a job, contributing to a 401k, left that job. Now with the new, contributing also. With the current, or with my old job, trying to figure out whether I should leave it there because it's with a reputable company that's earning good money on it, or if I should move it into an IRA or roll it over into an IRA. What do you recommend?
I think it depends on the return that you're getting from your old company. In most cases, being so young, I probably would just roll it over to the new company and let that accumulate over time. So it all depends on what the rate is, but I think, Bobby, at your age, it really wouldn't have affected that much if you just rolled it over into the new plan, because you got many years ahead of you to contribute to that. I don't know if anybody else has anything on that.
Yeah, and if they allow you to do that, roll into a new plan, that would be great. But I would say you definitely want to roll it over, because with your old employer, you probably only have like 5 or 10 options that you can invest in. If you roll it over to a traditional IRA, then you will have a multitude of options to invest that money in. So I think having those options give you more opportunity for better returns. So I would definitely roll it over and not leave it there.
A follow-up question that I think was good. When is it an ideal time to start investing?
I'll start with this one. And I would say there is no perfect time, but always the sooner the better. But I'm going to give you a little preview of kind of what's coming in the fall when we do FPU. They're called the baby steps. The first baby step is say you have $1,000 of savings for emergencies, a rainy day fund. Most emergencies you're going to experience are probably going to be less than $1,000. The second baby step is to pay off all your debt. The third baby step is actually to increase that savings from $1,000 to 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. If you have 2 family income, then probably 3 months is good, especially if you work with a stable company, stable industry. 3 months is probably sufficient. If you're unstable, unpredictable income, maybe 6 months of savings is what you need and you only have your own income. Baby step 4 is actually retirement, and that's when I would say you would start saving 15% of your income towards retirement. So I want you want to be focused at each stage so that you can kind of build that discipline so that you don't want to, because you don't want to dilute your efforts. So that's why I say you want to establish the savings, pay off debt, build up bigger savings, then start investing for retirement, kids' college, and then paying off your home. So those are kind of the baby steps in a nutshell. If you come back in the fall for FPU, you learn a lot more about those.
Those who don't know how many people didn't know what FPU is? Be honest. You just keep throwing out acronyms. Financial Peace University, the FPU. Everybody was like, I don't even know nothing about investing. I don't know what the FPU is. All right.
One of the things I would like to say about investing, we got started, me and my wife started investing very early. It was almost by mistake. It wasn't a plan, but her father sat us down and said, look, I will pay for a wedding or I will give you this money to buy a home. Now, we had the most bootleg wedding you ever want to see. It was terrible. But that investment up front has paid dividends for years. We were able to bless some people as a result of that. So I would say as early as possible, you want to try to get started in some type of investment.
And you said something I think is just good for the room to hear. You identify an investment as buying a home.
Absolutely.
So I just, for the panel, anybody want to touch on that? What is the importance of maybe home ownership versus rental situations, which I'm sure a lot of us are in those seasons?
For us personally, we've had some great success through investing in real estate. Like I said, we'd never rented an apartment. We moved into that home 2 weeks after we got married. And as a result, just continued to invest in real estate. For us, it's a up and down roller coaster at times, but real estate, I feel, is something that you can make money from in the long run. If you're patient and if you're willing to weather those ups and downs, we've been very successful in several different occasions with real estate. So I would highly, encourage that.
I'm a bit more conservative. So I would say as far as home ownership, I think the focus would be on your debt first. And even if you have a home now, I know sometimes we want to move to the next house. But if we make that sacrifice to be in this house for a little bit longer while we pay off our debt, I think that will help a lot. And it depends on your situation. I would say for my kids, they will maybe be in a better situation where investing very, very early is a possibility for them because they won't have so much debt. I think you really have to look at what you have and not compare what other people have. I think that's what we do in this generation because we have social media that everyone's, you see what everyone's doing, but you don't really know what the behind the scenes looks like. You don't know how much debt they're in. You don't know who gave them a loan. You don't know anything like that. So I think it's big that we not compare ourselves and really just focus on what your plan is. And if you do have a lot of debt, I would say focus on getting rid of that debt.
All right. Got a couple more questions on the sheet. Anybody have any questions out there? Yes, sir. Got a microphone.
How you doing? My name is Lee Fleming. I'm actually a personal banker at Wells Fargo. So I'm down here like, okay, I understand where you're coming from.
Made a pitch. Everybody go to Wells Fargo, see him.
Not trying to be funny. The one about the credit, how to rebuild, we actually have a secure card at Wells Fargo where if you put up $300, it will allow you to build your credit, for typically like a year. That goes back to good stewardship, though, because you still want to, make sure that you're budgeting and everything. But I actually did that myself. I had to find out what my credit score was, and I went up like 120 points. I went up to like 700 as a result of that. So that is a way to also rebuild. But that's not my question. Yes, I said Wells Fargo, so don't judge me. No, my question was for a married couple, or excuse me, if you're about to get married, right? And let's say, you have a little bit of debt, but, well, let's say you don't have as much debt. So you're about to get married. So you're trying to, so you did save a little bit, but you don't, obviously a marriage, it may take 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, whatever to get married, depending on where you want to have it at. So we're saying don't get in debt. How do you, what's your advice on how to prevent that? Prevent from getting in debt. Because before we got married, I dipped some things in the bud. I bettered my credit, like I was just saying. But then, I had to buy the ring. Man, we know how much the ring costs. And then you got to pay for the actual wedding itself. So what are some tips on, how not to get in debt as a result of the wedding?
Well, before he answers, I'm going to just say this. I'll marry you in your living room if you want me to. I'm trying to tell you now. The words is still the same. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The words are the same. No matter what the streamers look like, the words are the same. Look at your neighbor, say the words are the same. Come on, testify to them. They need to know it. No matter where you are, the words are the same. It's paper, the same paper. Going back to the court the same way. Okay, all right. It's real good.
I mean, what Pastor says is probably spot on because when you think about it, especially if you're coming into the marriage, you are two individuals, and especially the situation you described, maybe y'all didn't have any debt. Why would you want to start your marriage with debt? So either you got to lower the expectation of that dream day, or you got to delay the timing of when that dream day occurs so that you can build up the savings for that dream wedding. So that's what I say. I fell in that trap too, Lee. So it's just not you, brother. I financed my engagement ring. We financed the honeymoon. We was just swiping.
He couldn't even talk no more when he started talking about it.
Yeah. But what I'm telling the young people now is don't do it. If you have envisions to get married, not to get married, don't go in debt to get married.
Look, one husband started clapping. She said, put your hand down. Put your hand down. Don't you clap in here. I'm with you, Jarrell.
Yeah, there's no need to go in debt to get married. Not to get married. Marriage is a wonderful thing. When you find a woman, you find a good thing.
Yeah, you paying people to eat and celebrate with you. Y'all better do a cookout and put some hot dogs out there and tell everybody we gon' the same wobble in the living room or in. I'm just saying. Potluck. Your grandma better bring that macaroni and cheese. You done paid them $8,000 to cook macaroni and cheese to complain about it because your grandmama's better. The devil is a lie. Just saying. Y'all ain't gonna listen. 80% of y'all not gonna listen to that. The women were just like, no, my day. You better get it right. I'm telling y'all. Go ahead.
I'm not married, but I have most of my close friends are married. And one thing, if you're thinking about getting married, definitely like he said, you don't want to go into your marriage with a bunch of debt. And really determine, I know a lot of people just being on the outside looking in, they're doing it for their family, their mama, their daddy. Oh, well, my mama want to invite this person and this person, and you not even cool with them. Like, why are they at your wedding? Like, you haven't talked to them in years, but your mama is cool or your daddy is cool with them. So you have to live that life. Your mom, 9 times out of 10 nowadays, parents aren't footing the bill for weddings. You and your husband are. So you guys are going to be the ones that are paying that money back. So when mama and daddy want to invite everybody, all your cousins that you ain't seen in forever, think about who's going to be paying that back. And, yeah, that's it, I think.
True story. My grandma hit me up the day of the wedding. Said, my sister need to be there. I said, I didn't even know you had no sister. We paid that $45, though. Don't make no sense.